Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously chilling alternate timeline to explore a question that has fascinated and terrified historians for decades. What would the world look like today if Germany had actually won World War II? We're pulling directly from deep-dive historical analysis to map out exactly how an Axis victory would have reshaped the globe, rewritten societies, and completely altered the course of human history. Let's get into it.
We're going to start things off with this chilling prophecy from Winston Churchill, which he delivered to the House of Commons back in 1940. He painted a picture of an unthinkable reality where Britain falls and the whole globe, including the United States, descends into the tyranny of a new dark age. Churchill famously said that upon the defeat of Germany, men would say it was their finest hour. But what if that finest hour had literally never come to pass?
To even wrap our heads around how this dark age could have happened, we have to ask a massive what-if about the Battle of Britain. Because make no mistake, the British Royal Air Force holding the line in the skies, that was the single historical pivot point where reality and our alternate timeline split. If that one defensive stand had collapsed, the entire trajectory of the 20th century flips completely on its head. Section 1. The real turning point, grounding in reality. So, the terror really kicks off with the lightning-fast blitzkrieg in Poland back in September 1939. A Polish pilot named B.J. Solak tragically noted that the air was filled with a brown veil of smoke. Just absolute terror. Then, shockingly, France is beaten in just 6 weeks by May 1940. And what's even more concerning is that the new French Vichy government basically just accepted Nazi ideology. With the British scrambling from Dunkirk, the war lands right on Britain's doorstep by June 1940.
Now, take a look at the actual, real-world cost of the Battle of Britain. The losses are just staggering. We're talking 1,542 RAF planes lost and 544 fighter command pilots dead. There was a brutal 51% death rate among all RAF aircrew. But against all odds, they shot down 1,800 German Luftwaffe planes and held the line, forcing Hitler to indefinitely postpone his invasion plans.
Section 2. The point of divergence. Operation Sea Lion.
So, here is where things take a dark turn. In reality, as we know, the RAF held the line. But in our alternate universe, Hitler actually gets air superiority and instantly launches Operation Sea Lion, his massive land invasion of Britain. With the English Channel cleared, powerful British elites are left watching German panzer tanks just roll across their pristine grass. Demoralized and totally overwhelmed, Britain surrenders, exactly like France did. And this leaves Germany completely free to focus its entire massive war machine elsewhere without constantly looking over its shoulder.
Section 3. The Dominoes Fall. Totalitarian Expansion.
Without a Western distraction to worry about, the dominoes really start falling. First up, the Soviet Union easily falls. Hitler throws 3.6 million troops into Operation Barbarossa. But this time, he's actually using the captured British arms industry to fuel his push. On top of that, Japan, now totally unhindered by British forces in Asia, attacks Russia from the east. Caught in this overwhelming pincer movement, Joseph Stalin's 2.9 million troops are completely crushed, leading to a total Soviet collapse within a single year. As this global conquest expands, the occupation back home takes a truly horrifying shape. In Britain, Hitler rolls out what was known as the Black Book. Now, this was a real hit list prepared in 1940, containing 2,820 targets, everyone from journalists and politicians to spies and writers. Prominent folks like the playwright Noel Coward and Brave New World author Aldous Huxley were right there on the list, slated to be arrested immediately and likely sent straight to extermination camps to ensure the absolute suppression of free thought. And in this horrific timeline, as the Nazis tightened their grip over Europe and parts of Asia, imagine a report crossing Hitler's desk revealing this unbelievable figure: 9.7 million Jewish people exterminated. The Holocaust just accelerates, completely unhindered. Alongside them, the report coldly notes the murder of 350,000 homosexuals and 840,000 Romani and Sinti people. It is quite literally the mass industrialization of death on an unprecedented continental scale.
Section 4. Fascism rises in America. The internal threat.
Now, let's cross the Atlantic, because you have to remember, the United States was already incredibly vulnerable at this time. The nation was carrying deep trauma and poverty from the Great Depression, not to mention being heavily divided by widespread, strict racial segregation. Add to that, you had these incredibly powerful American industrialists, like Henry Ford, who held strong anti-Semitic views, openly admiring Germany's efficiency. All of this just fueled intense America First isolationist policies. The public was absolutely desperate to avoid another bloody European war.
Consider these words from the famed aviator and national hero Charles Lindbergh. Keep in mind, this is a guy who actually received a Commander Cross from the Nazis. His quote really highlights how influential figures were championing pro-fascist policies. Think about it. When national heroes are out there telling an exhausted public that dealing with Germany is somehow better than the alternative, and they actively blame minorities for the nation's problems, well, that ideology slowly starts to indoctrinate the mainstream.
So, with Europe lost, Joseph Goebbels' propaganda machine targets a divided U.S. public. Isolationists absolutely refuse to intervene, viewing Germany as an invincible Goliath. Capitalizing on all that fear and bitterness, Charles Lindbergh goes ahead and forms the American Fascist Party. And here's the kicker. Frightened, desperate voters, looking for an easy way out and unwittingly choosing their own demise, actually elect the fascists to power. This officially pulls America out of the fight and closes its doors to the rest of the world.
Section 5. Hitler's Utopian Nightmare, the Cold War Standoff.
Fast forward to 1944. Having captured the top-secret British tube alloys atomic research program and using Soviet and German scientists with basically limitless funding, the Nazis develop an atomic bomb a whole year early. Then, in 1945, the isolated United States finishes its own Manhattan Project. This triggers a terrifying nuclear Cold War standoff. Because both sides now possess weapons of absolute destruction, conventional war becomes impossible, effectively locking Hitler's global empire firmly in place.
Protected by this massive nuclear shield, Hitler gets to work enforcing his twisted idea of a global utopia. But as you can imagine, this utopia can never be free from tyranny. He enforces insanely strict societal controls, banning what he deems degenerative art, outlawing pornography, and even enforcing selective polygamy to breed his so-called master race. It's a society that relies 100% on violence, slavery, intense paranoia, and the total suppression of natural human creativity. Which brings us to the end of our explainer, leaving us with a final, really provocative thought. A society built entirely on totalitarianism, on decayed foundations, and on the active suppression of humanity, it eventually has to collapse under the weight of its own paranoia and unnatural restrictions, right? But in this alternate timeline, suspended in an atomic stalemate, where morality has literally been systematically erased, you have to wonder, just how much global suffering, slavery, and death must happen first before that rotten house finally falls down?